Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. And with me this week is the bass player for one of the truly legendary bands of the 90s. If you don't know them, you at least heard them on the radio or in a motion picture, perhaps, one time. Please welcome Ronnie Barnett from the Muffs. Thanks, you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Keith. You can lay it on a little thicker if you want. Keep going.
I mean, we'll get into everything, but man,
no, all good.
I want to say before I do an interview, I brush up on the people's work, even if I'm a little bit familiar with it. So This week I got to listen to the Muffs all week, and it was cool. I was pretty happy to do that. So
no, thank you. I never get tired of hearing that. No, thanks.
Yeah. Right on, man. You're welcome.
It's not too dated, right? It's not too dated.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Some of the early stuff.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, you can hear the influences, like what you guys, the people you guys influenced. Like, there wasn't a lot of vocalists back in the very early 90s who were doing either like a sweet vocal, but also like with a ton of grit. You either had, Pat Benatar, Joan Jett, the people who were influenced by them, who did the tough growly girl, or you had, the sweet sing-songy girl. And you guys had both, man. Like, and it's
true. It's a Kim. She did her thing. She did her thing, and the thing was, she didn't like that. It was a very narrow amount of things she really liked to listen to.
Sure.
So she was really I don't know if you could hear this, but her favorite music was like Mercy Beat, like Jerry and the Pacemakers and like Herman's Hermits. Like she loved the Kinks and the Beatles, but only up to like 65. You know what I mean? Right. Like same with the Who. Like she, once they got a little hippie-ish, she was out. But she loved just melody. So in the Muffs, underneath some of that fuzz and the screaming and stuff is like really traditional good pop tunes.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was definitely hard to pigeonhole, like people would call you guys pop punk, power pop, but it was more than that. To me, it was more than that, and
we were able to open for basically anybody. Not that we would do well at any of them, but we could do it. No, and we would do garage festivals and power pop festivals and punk festivals, and I'm proud of that.
Absolutely,
for better or worse. Yeah.
So going back quite a bit, obviously talking about 1991, that was such a huge year for music, and you guys were in LA forming a band when all of that change was happening. So what was that like? Because I mean, the Sunset Strip ruled the world with cock rock, for lack of a better word. And then all of a sudden Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains blow it wide open. So what was that like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna sound like an old man in a lot of this tonight, Keith. Okay. Like, well, back in the
I'm an old man too,
anymore, all that kind of stuff. But it really was a great time. Arguably the 90s are the last great time, right? Yeah. I moved to Los Angeles from Houston, Texas in 1989. And me and Kim were a couple. And Kim was in a band called the Pandoras, and so was Melanie, who was in our first lineup. Now the Pandoras were a band that started off as like a 60s garage band, and they went kind of pop, and then they turned metal. They were at the whims of their leader, Paula. So whatever she liked is what that band did. So that band tried to work the hair metal scene, and Kim and Melanie hated that. Even though they still dressed in bustiers and stuff. But the band really didn't that scene did not embrace their band either. So by the time we started, so me and Kim started dating, and I started dragging her along to all these, I was into grungy stuff, for lack of a better word. I was following Sub Pop records in 1988. So I started dragging her to see all these bands, some of which she liked, some of which she didn't. But it's funny now. I'd drag her to see the Swans, and then I'd drag her to see the Cows, and then I'd take her to see Mudhoney and all this stuff, and the Primitives, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there were parts that she started kind of deciding what she liked about him, I think. So by the time we formed our band, and again, it's our first show was January 91, so we formed like very late 1990. There were tons of clubs to play. When we started, we were playing 3 times a week in the LA area at different clubs, and it could just be done. And it wasn't just us. Like there was just lots of opportunities like that. And yeah, I think we definitely were loud and stuff in the beginning, and we used to throw our instruments around, and Kim would hit me with a guitar when she was mad at the sound on stage, which was about every gig.
Nice.
Yeah. So we definitely were came up. I mean, that grunge scene.
Yeah.
We rode that to a certain extent for sure.
Yeah. It's funny. I think everybody broke a guitar at some point or another, like to the point where John Hyatt wrote a song about it, but
yes. No, it's true. I mean, I had a Fender, I still have it, the Fender Precision bass my father gave me in 1978. And man, that thing took a lot of it. I got it fixed many times, but you could really throw that thing around. They were built well.
Yeah. I actually had I had an acoustic guitar that my first band, we all carved our names into it, and then we did a cover of Sister Ray. Not very faithful, to be completely honest, but at the end we kind of did this drum beat thing, and I was smashing the guitar, and then my guitar player came over and kicked it to pieces, and we all kept the piece with our name. I have no idea what happened to it now, but
how many people were at that show, Keith, where you did that?
It was a birthday party in a basement. So, but I was 18 or 19, and it was the greatest thing ever. There was actually people, like, there was no stage, obviously, so people were dancing in between us while we were playing the music. It was so fun.
No. You're caught in the moment sometimes, and you break your guitar. You're like, wow, I just did that in front of like 30 people.
Yeah. I did feel bad because I had that thing since I was like 10. And I was like, my dad got it for me, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to smash this at our show. It's just like, yeah.
Okay.
May not have been the smartest thing,
It was premeditated then. Okay. Because
it was definitely premeditated. That's why we all wrote our names on it and stuff. It was totally a prop. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
Because it's very easy to get caught in the moment. It wasn't our band.
I don't think any of us could afford to break anything that we were planning on playing. So we had to be careful with that.
No, that's smart. Very smart.
Yeah. So how quickly after those first gigs did you guys feel like you had a sound? Because obviously, like you said, there was noise and melody. Like, it was a really interesting. Like, I found myself listening to it and wondering where Hole fit in there, because I feel like Courtney Love could have heard you guys and sweetened it up a little bit, but I feel like there's almost no way she wasn't influenced by what you guys were doing.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. I know Courtney was a fan of the girls band, the Pandoras. I know she was a fan of that band. And Paula in that band did the screaming thing. The growly screaming thing that Kim did. I loved Hole early on. I loved him after that too. But I was going to tons of Hole gigs before the Muffs. And I was dragging Kim. We I liked him more than she did, but
okay.
Yeah, we definitely were on each other's radar. And in fact,
so Hole was first then, actually, was
Hole was around first. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're very, to pigeonhole just both these girls were loud screaming types.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I mean, the music, the music is nothing similar at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
To go back to your question, looking back, it's weird how easy things, or how things just fell into place.
Yeah.
Kim had all these. Kim didn't write in the Pandoras. They had the one songwriter, so Kim had a stockpile of songs. Yeah. She played bass in that band. She always wanted to play guitar. So by the time she quit that band, she had a bunch of songs ready to go.
Yeah.
And again, like we practiced for 3 months and then played a gig, and then we just hit the ground running. I mean, when we played our first gig, we played 2 more gigs the next week.
Yeah.
And the first gig, all our friends came. It's funny, like so it was packed. Like it was like, and they're members of L7 and Red Cross, and all of our friends went. Second gig, nobody's there. You know what I mean? Like everybody came for the first one. So, but again, we had that the first batch of songs, and we kind of learned our songs in kind of increments of a few months apart, right? So we had our first batch of songs, and they're pretty, they're already melodic. We already had loud guitars.
Nice.
So the sound was kind of in place from the beginning, even though it did get, obviously it got streamlined and, dare I say, better as it went along.
Right.
But yeah, it was pretty easy and quick. And it's funny because when Kim quit the Pandoras, she was signed to like a publishing deal with that band and stuff, even though she didn't write songs. Everybody swept her under the rug. So we got no real help. And and we were talking to Warner Brothers literally about 7 months after our first show. So, and then we had to get business people. So, you hear about LA. People dismiss LA. Oh, LA bands, they have their lawyer, they have lawyers.
Right.
They play a gig. And that's often true. But it was not that way with us. We didn't have anybody. And we got approached by the big guys, and we suddenly had to kind of assemble our business team. But maybe I'm getting a little ahead of the game here.
No. Yeah, you're fine, man. It's you mentioned Red Cross. It is amazing how long. I mean, they were kids, and they've been making this amazing music since the 70s, and it's all rooted in like this bubblegum stuff, but it just expands and turns into just Red Cross is just, man, their whole experience,
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's really cool.
It was cool when I moved to LA that instantly, because I was with Kim, I fell into this group of people, like because there was a practice space run by Dave Nasworthy, who had a band called the Chemical People, and who's gone on to be a big photographer in the fetish world and stuff. But Dave lived in Beverly Hills, had a practice space, and would just let bands practice there for free if he liked them. So Pandora's practice there, Red Cross practice there, the All practice there, L7. So I was immediately just met all these people that I already admired, and and it was funny when we started to kind of get advice from those guys. Like you say, Red Cross started so young. I mean, I'm older than Steven, by
crazy
by a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve had already been a veteran, like a 10-year veteran when he was like 24.
Right. Wildest thing ever.
Yeah.
So
see the movie, everyone. Have you seen the movie, Keith? Have you seen the Red Cross?
I haven't seen the movie, but I need to. There's so many music documentaries that I need to catch up on.
I get you.
Yeah, I'll come across one and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to watch this. Sometimes I'll do a Google search for best music documentary. And occasionally I'm disappointed, but sometimes it's cool.
No, some are better than others. That's for sure. Yeah.
There was a Sonic Youth one that I don't think I made it all the way through. It was just weird. It was Thurston Moore in a bad mood a lot. And I was just like, I don't really want to watch this. Yeah. I was like,
that one. Yeah, no, there's an art to filmmaking, as you know, being a filmmaker. You can make a bad documentary about a good subject. A lot of people a lot of people won't watch, a doc like my favorite. I think the best music documentary of all time is the one about Anvil, who is not a great band. Yeah. So, but the Red Cross one, everybody see it. You can now pay to stream it. Finally, like all these docs, it knocks around the circuit for a while, but it's not free yet, but it's worth the money, folks.
Get there at some point, probably. But the Mother Love Bone documentary I watched recently was really, really cool. Yeah, it was good stuff.
No, I remember that one.
Yeah. So there's, you come across a few good ones here and there.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, I don't want to jump this far ahead, but you were just in a documentary not that long ago, right? Or it came out recently, like January of 2025, I think it was released.
I've been in a few, Keith. I've been in a few.
Okay, let me.
You're gonna have to get more specific here.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It was about a guy who is kind of unknown and helped out a lot of bands.
Bill Bartel.
And that one just came out, right?
because I do get about 15 seconds of screen time in the Red Cross one as well.
Okay, cool.
Uh, yeah,
Right.
no, that's another good new one. Yeah, The Secret Lives
Yeah.
of Bill Bartell, made by
Okay.
David Markey, an old friend of ours, and yeah, that Bill was Bill had a band called White Flag, but he was so much more, and yeah, warranted. Anybody who doesn't know Bill, you watch this, you're like, oh my god, I see why they made a documentary about this guy I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one's that one will be available to watch someday too.
Right. Yeah. I just saw that one was very recently released, and I was like, oh, I got to make sure I remember to ask him about it. And then I couldn't even remember the subject of the documentary. Of course.
No, all good. No, it's not he's not a household name.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but Bill did so much. Just to give you a quick, Bill did things behind the scenes that affected your life. Like Bill named the album "Made in Japan" by Iron Maiden. Like that was Bill's idea.
Yeah.
You know, Bill, Os Mutantes. Bill single-handedly responsible for their comeback. You know, like he got Kurt Cobain the CD of their album, and Kurt talked about him. Os Mutantes has been back ever since. So Bill did a lot of very interesting guy. He's sadly passed away about 10 years ago. But yeah, there's a movie to immortalize him, which Bill would probably like and be horrified by at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Bill, Bill is the guy in the. You ever seen The Decline of Western Civilization about the punk?
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Bill's the guy in the orange shirt riding on Darby Crash.
Nice.
Bill's very prominent. Bill had a band called Test Pattern at the time, so he's riding Test Pat. He gets that far on Darby's arm, and people are like, "Ooh, what's that mean, Test Pat? Pat smear." Yeah, Bill was just trying to write Test Pattern on his arm. That's all there is to that.
Trying to write his band's name. That's hilarious. That's so funny. It's funny, like what was considered punk, especially on the LA side of things, like well, even New York, I mean, honestly, but like bands like X, because I was just thinking about The Decline of Western Civilization. X is very prominent in that documentary, and they were like a rockabilly band, you know? I mean, like a heavy rockabilly band, but they were, you know, Social Distortion is a punk band, I guess, you know, and like
well, I mean, X had rockabilly guitar mixed with like other stuff. Yeah, so no, early punk was just being different and weird. I mean, there's so many bands that were just weird and fully formed. It always blows my mind. I mean, think of like the B-52s. Like, where did that come from?
Right,
you watch a gig. Their first, there's an early gig from '78 of them. They're just formed. Those songs on the first album they're playing, like those weird arrangements. It's mind blowing. It really is. Yeah. But
it's wild to think about the band that did, you know, Love Shack having like 6-minute songs that just will blow your mind. You know, it's a wild thing, man. But yeah, B-52s, they deserve every moment of that hit, man, because
that first album is one of the best records ever. It really is. For sure. I never tire of that record. But so many bands back then. You know, before punk got kind of streamlined. You know, as the '80s went on. You know, but and
then you know, the late '90s, early 2000s, punk pretty much just became what it is now, whatever it is now, you know.
It's just a broad term, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that documentary was fun. Anybody who hasn't seen The Decline of Western Civilization, which I can't imagine, you know, go check it out. Watch the second one too, The Metal Years.
The second one is a better film, if you ask me. I love them both, and obviously the music is not as good or whatever. But again, another thing you got to talk people into, like, really watch the metal one. I know you don't care about this music, but like
the narrative is so good, though. You know,
so good.
The story that's strung through that second one is so good.
Oh my god, yeah.
And honestly, in the '80s, I was a metalhead, so that was my. I mean, not exclusively. Like, I love Depeche Mode and Talking Heads and Blondie and the Beastie Boys. But my go-to was metal. I mean, it was. I was a kid, you know, and it was what everybody loved. So when the second documentary came out, I was really into it. I didn't really get into heavy into punk until the '90s, really, and then I found the Sex Pistols and the Ramones and kind of
Yeah.
went back. And oddly enough, the first time I heard the Sex Pistols, Ricky Rackman was trying to expand Headbangers Ball, and
Ah.
he played a live Sex Pistols song on Headbangers Ball. And
Oh.
I'm like, this is wild. So that was actually how I found out about the Sex Pistols,
Wow.
So
No, Ricky's got
yeah.
good tape. We did a couple of radio
Yeah.
things. We did Loveline with when Ricky Rackman was doing Loveline. We were on his radio show. He's a good guy. I
Cool.
haven't seen him in a long time, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I always wondered about, because I know like Ricky Rackman was really good friends with Tammy Down. Obviously, they had their club together, and he
Yeah.
was good friends with a lot of these hair metal bands, but he seemed like that wasn't like he seemed like he perked up every time he played a DRI video.
Well, yeah,
It
yeah,
seemed
yeah.
like, yeah,
No, and he would wear punk T-shirts on Headbangers
right.
Ball. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
And there was
yeah, for sure.
the crossover was going on at that point too.
Right,
You know.
right. Bands like
Yeah.
Suicidal Tendencies and DRI, and
Right.
they were mixing it together. Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned Warner Brothers coming knocking on the door pretty
Yeah.
shortly after you guys signed, like, shortly after you guys formed. I'm sorry. That
Yeah.
probably was not expected. Obviously, you said you didn't have lawyers or anything. How did you react to that? Like, what was?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we did obviously we wanted to succeed, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah, we never thought we I don't know. We didn't again, we weren't shopping ourselves or anything.
right.
By that point we had turned down and it's crazy. We're getting offers very quickly. We turned
Yeah,
down Triple X. Triple X Records wanted to sign us, if you would. It's always, I guess, when people are on like an independent label and they say they were signed, it always sounds weird to me, even though I guess
right,
it is.
right.
Yeah, they wanted to sign us and everything. So yeah, by the time, so this would have been, yeah, the late summer '91. So we're talking, Nirvana is just taking off, right?
Yeah,
As
yeah,
far as commercially.
right.
So, because I mean, it's easy to say we got swept up in the post Nirvana major label feeding frenzy, and
Yeah,
we did, but it was kind of early on. We were our A&R guy was just I'm gonna call him a kid because he was like 24 at the time.
okay.
His name was Dave Katznelson. Dave had been an intern and helped uh, sign the Flaming Lips, even though his boss got credit for it, that kind of thing. But
Right,
Dave
right.
had just become a full-fledged A&R guy, and he had just signed Mudhoney, which Mudhoney was hot at after Nirvana, everyone wanted to sign Mudhoney, right?
Yeah,
So Dave
yeah.
signed Mudhoney, and Dave found us in a club, and we were opening for a band called Trash Can School, who was
Okay,
they were a great band. They had a couple of records on Simply for the Record Industry,
okay.
at a place called the Coconut Teaser. So yeah, Dave saw us open, and that's where he discovered us. And he brought in another A&R guy named Rob Cavallo.
Okay. I've seen his name on records.
Yeah, Rob
Okay.
Cavallo
Yeah.
became famous.
Right.
Anyway, we had two A&R guys. So yeah, no, it was amazing to just be signed. And again, we didn't have anything on tape or anything. We'd made like an indie. We'd recorded our first indie singles at that point. We did it in one session, produced by
Okay.
Bill Bartell from the movie Secret Lives of
Nice.
Bill Bartell. So our first singles came out in the fall, one on Simply for the Record Industry and one on Australian label called The Go-Go.
Okay.
So we had those. We didn't really consider that a demo tape. So we got signed to a demo deal just so we could go into the studio and have some things recorded well.
Right.
So those two guys signed us. Now Rob was a metal guy at this time.
Right.
Rob had signed the Metal Blade label to be distributed by Warner Brothers. He had
Okay.
signed the Black Sabbath had just reformed with Dio for the Dehumanizer record. Rob
Sure.
signed that. Before us, Rob signed a band called Sister Whiskey.
I remember.
So
Yeah.
that's where Rob was from. He had a band
Okay.
called the Power Trio from Hell, which nobody will remember.
Yeah, I don't remember them.
Yeah. So we signed this demo deal with those guys. Again, I don't know. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I'll just say this: we made our first record with Rob and Dave producing. The second record Rob produced was a record called Dookie by Green Day.
Oh
Okay,
man.
so
Yeah.
this is in all the books. We get credit. Green Day signed to Warner Brothers because they loved our first record, and they met with our A&R guy and loved him, and they thought like, wow, major labels putting out a record like this, and this guy knows how to play Beatles songs, and we can talk to him, So when Green Day signed, they had our A&R guy, our producer, they took our management, our business manager, our booking agent. I'm not saying we made them, but
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like something to do with it.
And again, we get credit in all the books. So yeah. So anyway, so after that, Rob became a big producer.
Right.
Once something like Dookie comes out, and it's that big, everybody associated with it, it becomes big in their field, right? And that includes our management. Like our management got like a label deal of their own after that.
Wild.
Yeah. And these guys are from the metal world too. They managed Testament before us.
Oh.
Yeah. One of them was in Sha Na Na.
Nice.
This is the great thing. Now, this is the great thing, Keith, about when we were coming up. So getting all these business people. And like, I'm a guy who's just a fan, right? I ended up in my girlfriend's band. I didn't mean to be a musician, right? Like I played in high school bands. I gave it up. I became a writer. I thought I'd be a journalist. And so to all of a sudden be in this band and we're doing well, and then we're getting wooed by these people. Like we met with Ian Copeland, who wanted to book us, one of the Copeland brothers, like,
right.
Tom Zutaut was coming to see us from Geffen, who signed Guns N' Roses. Freddie DeMann, who managed Madonna and Michael Jackson, came to our rehearsal because when we signed to Warner Brothers, Madonna had just started Maverick Records.
Oh, okay.
So they were thinking of putting us on Maverick. So Freddie DeMann came to our practice, and Madonna had our demo tape when she was filming Body of Evidence at the time, the movie she was in. Yeah. Anyway, so all this stuff would happen. Yeah. I mean, just this will all be in my book, by the way, Keith. All these stories. Right. It's all good stuff, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So just all that stuff. We were always very lucky. In that respect.
Right on, man.
So
yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of went off, but
no, dude, that's good story. Yeah. Part of what this podcast is about. So
being on Warner Brothers at that time, it was a great place to be. Like we made our record with our A&R guys. We basically, I don't know if you know that record, but we basically recorded all this stuff and it all made the record. So there's an Angry Samoans cover on there. There's like a 30-second instrumental that I hesitate to say I wrote, but it's just some dumb thing I used to play at practice when I was bored. It all made the record, for better or worse. So, so any of those stories, and this goes through all three records that we made on Warner Brothers, and Reprise. We switched to Reprise after Green Day got big. We'll get to that. We never had any of those horror stories you hear, like we're like, we don't hear any singles, like none of that. It's like, for better or worse. I mean, we never became like a huge band, but we were a steady working band for all of our 29 years. So it's something to be proud of. Yeah. So they never turned down records or made us re-record stuff or any of that stuff. So we had a great time on the major label. In fact, things didn't get weird until we started being on the indie labels.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I listened to some podcasts about 90s rock and stuff, mostly Dig Me Out, which is an amazing podcast. If people haven't checked that out, I've been on the show a couple times, actually. It's these two guys who were in an indie rock band in Columbus, Ohio, in the 2000s, and they decided that they were going to make a podcast about all of the albums that were made in the 90s. Like all the indie rock albums. And at first it was the most obscure ones, but now they're getting to more stuff. But they had somebody on the show from Rocket from the Crypt. And like their story's insane.
Oh yeah. No, the part of their deal was they had to sign the sister band, Drive Like Jehu.
Yeah. And they got like
still do indie records. Yeah.
Right. 6 record deal for like millions of dollars, and like they could do whatever they wanted. But I feel like the majors looked at the cool bands and they were like, they can make us money if we just leave them alone. Like that really seems like the story a lot. But then the indies were like, oh, we have to make sure these are cool enough for our label,
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
that's kind of the vibe that I got from that podcast only. Listening to
well,
people talk on that podcast.
I don't think you can really generalize that, but
Right.
if you were a band that like, especially like a band like Rocket, like they had a buzz
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
different labels wanted to sign them, and they yeah, some and the Melvins, same thing. Like they
Right. Right.
labels wanted to sign them. Atlantic let them do whatever they wanted. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, and Rocket had I know their A&R person, Anna Statman, and she was
Mhm.
she's still a great person, but yeah,
Yeah.
she signed the bands for all the right reasons, right? Yeah.
Right.
Same time she
Well,
signed I had a roommate in a band called Clawhammer. She signed
oh,
them as
good.
well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, same deal. Like these
Yeah.
bands, it's easy to look back and be like, oh, these bands weren't going to have a number one. They weren't going to compete with Whitney Houston or whatever. But
Man, let
you
me
know,
tell you, in 1999,
yeah,
if Breaking Up had a push
yeah,
at record, at radio,
yeah,
I feel like that record could have gone to number one. That's a great freaking pop song, man. And I don't, the Rocket
yeah,
from the Fifth Tune, I don't
yeah, yeah,
understand. Like that song will drill in your brain. So I'm just like,
yeah. It's a weird thing with the if it had been push thing, because like
yeah,
that's it. It takes more than that. Like otherwise, every record
yeah,
would be a hit. You know what I mean? Like
right.
you got to have luck, you got to have timing, you got to have just that extra, just
Yeah,
something,
true.
something you
Yeah.
can't capture. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's a cultural thing sometimes. Like
yeah,
something
yeah,
just clicks, and like
exactly.
Green Day, it clicks and it's everywhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's wild, man.
But
But yeah,
no, just to say, yeah, but Rocket's still around to
yeah,
a, a certain degree. John still does what he wants. It's great.
right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And it's funny, we mentioned Mudhoney earlier.
yeah,
I feel like Mudhoney from Sub Pop to Reprise and then back to Sub Pop, their sound has never really changed. The production
no,
has gotten a little clearer,
yeah,
but they're another pretty uncompromising band, it seems like. I mean, they
yeah.
make great music and
No,
it's nothing anyone should fuck with. You know what I mean? Like it's
no, no,
just
no.
yeah,
And having the same A&R person, yeah, that got that their A&R person didn't want to fuck with them.
right.
He liked what they did. And Mudhoney, you know, they were smart. Like every band's different, and just in our band, we used all the budget we had to make these records, and
Sure.
that's just the way it was. But Mudhoney, their first major label record, they recorded it at Conrad Uno's, like they did the record before, and they all bought
Right.
houses with leftover money they had. You know what I
Hell yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the guy from I think his name is Alan Johansson, but it's spelled kind of weird. He was in 11.
okay, yeah,
Um, so he took his
yeah,
first ever advance and
yeah,
built a studio with it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then just recorded his stuff at his house for free.
yeah.
Right?
Back
And
when that
that's what
wasn't
he
normal.
continues
Yeah,
to do. Yeah,
yeah,
so that is amazing.
yeah,
That's smart. And now he can make money with other bands coming and recording in his studio, and he's done all
yeah,
kinds of cool production and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no, now,
yeah.
yeah, now with the technology, I mean, yeah, and you can have a studio pretty
Oh,
easily.
sure.
Yeah,
Now it's a completely different thing. Like,
no, no. When we were making records in the '90s, we were recording in these big studios literally next door to Eric Clapton and stuff.
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
that was mind blowing too. But
yeah. I can't
it's the way it
remember.
was. Yeah.
I watched some interview where somebody was talking about they were making an album at the Beatles studio.
Uh
They were like, the band is here today. And everyone was
huh.
like, well, maybe we'll see them, And
Yeah.
George Harrison like stuck his head in the door and was like, you guys sound great, and just kept moving. And it's like, oh, I can't remember what band it was now, but it was,
Yeah.
yeah, but man,
See,
I
George
could,
Harrison get away with that. There was we recorded at the studio called Devonshire, and these guys were telling us that Ugly Kid Joe was in there when Roger Waters was making a record, and the
oh man,
singer from Ugly Kid Joe one day just went in the Roger Waters studio, sat down, and said, "Hey, what's up?" And both Waters and his engineer just turned and go, get the fuck
Get
out
out.
of here.
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
right, dude. You are
Of
Whitfield
course.
Crane, my friend. You are
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially as you probably know, there are certain times you don't want to walk in that studio.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
man.
not a party generally.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, man. Pink Floyd had a interesting history at the very least. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
still continues.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
so you did the three major label albums and had a good experience, and then
Yeah.
but then you moved on to the indies. Was that a
Yeah.
like was your contract up and they just didn't want to renew it, or how did
Uh,
that?
no, I mean we got dropped basically.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so at Warner Brothers, our records came out in 93, 95, and 97. So
Yeah.
in 95, right before our second record came out called Blonder and Blonder,
Yeah.
which was named after something Courtney Love said as she walked by us, right after Kurt died, by the way, in
Oh
Seattle.
man. Okay.
Um, um, right before that record came out, in fact, I always heard the last thing in that year, all the heavy Warner Brothers people that had been there for 30 years and stuff, the president, vice presidents, everything left. Okay,
Yeah.
this is Mo Austin, his son Michael Austin, Lenny Waronker, and this goes down to people in the art department and stuff, and yeah, basically they got new ownership, and all those people left. I think they either
Yeah.
got bought out or were kicked out or in solidarity left. So at the time, things are still riding high in the music business, right? 1995.
Right.
I of course knew how important those people were, knowing history, but I didn't realize how big a deal it really was. And Lenny's last, I always heard his last thing he did before he left the label was to allow us, because our first record was on Warner Brothers,
Mm.
and I always heard his the last thing he did at the label was allow us to go to Reprise. And we did that to work with all the Green Day's people, whatever. Same umbrella, but it's all whatever. Anyway, so by the time it got and Blonder got a big push because it was the post Green Day Dookie thing. And like I
Right.
said, we had all the same people and stuff. And not that we were ever going to be a Green Day, but anyway, that's our best selling
Yeah.
record. And then, whatever.
Yeah.
And before I forget, I just want to add those three records have never gone out of print, which is astounding.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That's,
all
that
the
is amazing.
bands of our era records went out of print. Then I'm talking your
Yeah.
Mudhoneys, your Babes in Toylands, all that stuff.
Right.
But our
Right.
records, yeah, one way or another have always stayed in print. But anyway, so by the time it got to 97, we're talking new presidents, whatever, new bottom lines. The label's owned by whoever, like Seagram's or something. I don't think it was Seagram's, but companies like that started snatching up these labels.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why there's only
Seagram's did buy a label. It may have been Warner. I know
they
that
might have. I mean,
there was some squeeze from Seagram's once they bought a label. So I don't
yeah,
remember what it was.
I think that's why that's in my head. I don't think it was
Yeah.
Warner.
Okay.
Um,
I actually think Gerald talked about that on his podcast, on his interview. So it was whatever label he was on. MTA.
Well, yeah, he was on MTA,
MTA, right? Yeah. It was MTA.
Which Universal, all that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, cut to today, there's like one major label that owns everything. That's Universal. Right. They own everything.
Right.
Anyway, that's way ahead of the game. Anyway, by 97 with us, we we made that record. Kim produced it on our own. Like Rob didn't produce this one. Rob was so busy at that time. We were left to do it on our own, and we did it. And that's our favorite record we ever made. It's called Happy Birthday to Me. But we learned literally a month after it came out that we were going to be dropped. Now they did give us tour support. We toured that record still and all that. But it felt weird to me being kicked off the label at that time. But in fact, I don't really think there's any way out of it. Yeah. Especially seeing as things progress.
Right.
Because the early and mid '90s, you had the business was doing so well. You had all those little boutique labels, like Hollywood Records, and Anyway, yeah. So by that time, I mean, we're just going along as we did. So I mean, our next record came out in '99, 2 years later. So we signed to Fat Records.
Mm-hmm.
Fat Mike
Yeah.
was right there, and signed us pretty immediately.
Awesome.
And yeah, and that was cool. You know, again, we were left on our own, made the record we wanted to make. We took money from them to make it. You know, for better or worse. And then we turned it in, and again, that's the first time we kind of heard like Mike was like, "Oh, I thought you'd make a fast record." Being on Fat
Well,
Records, that's the first time I'd heard that term or anything. Like, I was like,
yeah.
"Have you heard other records?" Like, yeah, I know. I don't. He wasn't rejecting it, but
Right.
it ended up coming out on kind of a more poppy division of Fat Records called Honest
Yeah.
Dons.
Okay.
Yeah. And that record's called Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow. And that record's out of print. That's our one record that's out of print.
Oh,
yeah, we'd love to reissue it. And in fact, we were in talks with them to license it. And then the pandemic happened, and now Fat Records sold. I kind of get why it kind of fell apart.
yeah.
I hate this term. They kind of ghosted us.
Okay.
Or, you know,
Yeah.
or the label Omnivore that has reissued all our stuff at this point. But we'd still love to do that. And in fact, I saw Mike first time in many years. I got to be a tour guide at the Punk Rock Museum.
Oh, awesome.
It'll be 2 years in July, and hadn't seen Mike in all those years, and I was like, first off, we hugged and talked about Kim passing away. I'm getting way ahead of the story here, but you know, and we had that moment, and he kept hugging me, and I apologize for we had an asshole manager at the time that he had to deal with. We were in that mindset, like when we had managers and business people, we didn't do it. We let them do everything. I mean, that's just the way it was. We're not business people. So anyway, we had a good moment, but it was not the time for me to say, "Hey, could we license?"
Hey, what about that record?
Today? Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah. And then I also want to say, before we move on, that working those years that we were on the major label, we did all sorts of extra stuff. Like we were on all sorts of soundtracks. We started a movie. We were in TV shows. You know, a commercial that lasted like 3 years. So we worked all angles of the. I don't think we've had a magazine, but we basically have worked all these other. We went on to be in video game, you know, Rock Band video game, which is very lucrative. I got a good story about that too. I'll just tell it right now because we're going to forget.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll tell it. So.
Yeah, I jumped ahead too far, and then I was like, there was some stuff that I should talk about.
Good. Yeah. No, we can't cover everything.
For sure.
But this is a good story because everyone's like, oh, the master tapes. Is it master from the master tapes? All that stuff.
Right.
Oh, the master tapes were lost. Okay, I got a good story about losing master tapes. Okay, so we had borrowed the master tapes for a song from our third Warner record to remix for a movie. Now I can't remember what movie that was. But anyway, we took it to Chick Corea studio. It's called Mad Hatter.
Oh, awesome.
And so cut to like whenever this would have been 2010, whenever Rock Band, you know, the Rock Band video games were big and stuff.
Oh, sure.
So at first time we had Kids in America, you know, which we didn't write, of course. Yeah. And then, you know, they use it. They need the tapes because they need to separate all the things. Because it's Rock Band.
Right, you have to have a different channel for
playing the different parts, whatever. So the next one, they wanted a song called Outer Space from our third record. So we went to look for the tapes. Warner just doesn't have them. Last time they were seen, they were checked out to go to Mad Hatter Studios. So Mad Hatter had closed at this point. I love this part, Keith. They got in touch with Chick Corea to ask if he had our tapes. Of course, Chick's like, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Anyway, to cut this long story short, we had to re-record the song, and so we ended up owning everything. So had we not lost the tapes, it would have been the Warner version that would have gone to pay back the debt we still owe. But doing it ourselves, we got a nice $40,000 out of that.
Nice.
Yes.
That's
So
awesome, man. Good
anyway,
deal. Hey, hey,
there's a feel good lost tapes story for you.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of a couple different things. So, first of all, speaking of Kids in America,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who know you for that cover, obviously, because Clueless was a massive movie.
Oh yes.
And in the 90s, well, one thing that I do want to say, you guys are the reason that I know that that's not a Blondie song. Because as a kid, always thought it was a Blondie song. And then I heard someone on the radio say, this is the Muffs with a cover of Kim Wilde's Kids in America. And I was like, oh, well, I guess it's not Blondie. So that was, you guys are to thank for that.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not the only person who thought that was a Blondie song. But yeah, there was a big thing in the 90s with people, bands covering other bands on soundtracks. Like that was a huge thing in the 90s. Did you guys get approached and were they like, do you want to do a cover, or how did that work out? Like,
yeah, so we were actually on the road supporting Blonder and Blonder. By the way, that song's ours at this point. Let's face it.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Your version is more well known, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. It gets played in baseball stadiums and stuff. It's amazing.
Right.
And like you said at the beginning, you've heard one thing by us. That's the thing. Like that's
for sure.
Anybody I meet, actually, now that we're aging, there are some people that don't know Clueless at this point, but still not many. I can always point to Clueless and people know that song. And it still gets used, right? Still, it got in the show Gen Z on Prime. It got in that 90s show. Is the finale. Anyway, it lives on. I mean, if we'd written it, man, we bought Kim Wilde a house with that, but I'll get to that. I got a good story about that. Anyway, back in the 90s, it was soundtrack crazy for that kind of stuff, right? Like that's how we ended up on a lot, not doing covers necessarily, but these soundtrack people would call Warner Brothers, send us some CDs. Yeah. And they'd get Babes in Toyland, and they'd get Mudhoney, they'd get us, and we'd be the band they understood.
Right.
So that's how we ended up on the Drew Carey HBO special, and in a lot of movies, the Aaron Spelling produced TV show that we were in.
Right.
Anyway, Kids in America. So we're on the road, and our manager says, "Hey, we got an offer from Amy Heckerling, who always wanted to work with Keith since I saw Fast Sounds of Ridgemont High."
Yeah.
All right. So she's got this movie Clueless. Her daughter turned her on to the Muffs. You have your choice of two songs. You can either do Kids in America or All by Myself by Eric Carmen.
Okay.
Now, love Eric Carmen, love All by Myself, but obviously we were not going to do All by Myself.
Right. Makes a lot more sense to do Kids in America.
Let me cut to that. The person that did All by Myself was Jewel, a then unknown Jewel. She would get known later this same year, but
sure,
she did it, and that song didn't even make the soundtrack. Right? It's just like barely in the film. Whereas Kids in America, as you know, opening song, it's the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we were on the road, so we had to record it. I think we pulled out of one show, so we'd have 2 days to do it when we were in New York City.
Okay.
So we recorded at Electric Lady Studios, which you'll know.
Man, of course.
Yeah. So we did that on the road. We recorded Kids in America on the road, and we had our friends from D-Generation do some backups as well.
Oh, I love D-Generation. Such an underrated band.
Yeah. Jesse's on there, and Anyway, that's how that came. It was all really quick. Like we got the offer quick. We recorded it quick. It was done quick. The movie was out quick. So that was just back then too, you get paid well for having these placements. Like you don't anymore. These TV we had songs in like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all this stuff, and they were lucrative, right?
Yeah.
Like and I mentioned the song in a commercial. We had a song in a Fruitopia. Remember Fruitopia?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I love Fruitopia.
You do. Most people don't at this point, but it was like, for those who don't know, it was like a Snapple. Like it was Coca-Cola's
like
attempt.
Dream. Yeah.
Yeah. It was owned by Coca-Cola, and it was their attempt at having a Snapple type thing.
Right.
Yeah. We had a song.
Like, there'd be a rainbow in the background and.
Oh yeah. No. And they used the instrumental part of one of our songs. Like it's a bam, bam, but a new generation. Snapple. I got them all on tape somewhere.
Nice.
Anyway. So we were really lucky in that respect. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, soundtracks. That was a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
way of life
Soundtracks was
back
a
then.
huge thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was just hip at the time to have these soundtracks with these pop bands, and you know what I mean? Like there's
Right.
a ton
Right.
of
I
them.
mean, Say Ferris,
Yeah.
that band, if anybody, what they do, Cruel to Be Kind, and was that them that did the Cruel to Be Kind cover?
I don't remember. They don't all become
Yeah,
iconic like Kids in
but they've
America.
done a lot of soundtracks, them and Letters
Yeah.
to Cleo, and I'm
Yep.
sure that they made some money.
Those are all our yeah, those are all our
Yeah,
people.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Um, so and also Fat Mike. I mean, it's very interesting that he signed you guys because I said a few years ago, I don't think anyone has done more for ska and pop punk than
Yeah.
Fat Mike.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You guys aren't really either one of those things, so I'm
No.
I'm not surprised that he wasn't like I thought it'd be faster,
No.
but
Yeah.
but
No, I
yeah,
know. He liked us, but I think it was his wife who he co-did the label with, Erin,
uh,
that was really the big fan of ours.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
but you know, but that's Mike too. To when I said like, have you heard our other records? He's like, yeah, I know. I know what I was thinking.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Mike's cool, man, and yeah, like you say, man, he has put his money where his mouth is, right? Like
yeah,
he didn't
yeah.
just sit there and then just earn all that money and get rich and stay home. He like started like an iconic label, and now
Yep.
he's got the museum, and you
Yeah,
know
man.
he's
Yeah,
a good guy. Like he did a
yeah.
tribute when Kim passed away. He did a tribute during one of our songs with some
That's awesome.
buddies. Yeah. So nothing but good things to say about Fat Mike.
Yeah. So were you guys still like out there touring and making records and stuff when Kim got sick? I mean,
Yeah.
how?
So we over the course of our, like I said, 29 years together, and I count
Yeah,
29 years together until the day she died. Um,
absolutely. Yeah, me too.
um, uh, and because we had a record come out 2 weeks
Right,
after she died as well,
right,
which
right.
wasn't supposed to end up that way. But yeah, we took, let's see. So after Alert Today, we made a record called Really Really Happy in 2004,
Yep.
and then we toured that record, and then we didn't do anything for about the better part of 5 years, and that was just like it wasn't conscious. It was just like,
Yeah,
I think after just being so intense for 10 years or over 10
yeah,
years, it was a natural break that kind of occurred. Now we didn't stop being friends. Um, I did a little touring with a band from Seattle called Visqueen.
okay.
Um, Kim started to try to write songs for commercials. Uh, Roy hunkered down, had a family, had a real job. That just
Yeah,
happened, and so we never broke up or anything. And then so like around like 09, maybe late 08, we got offered to go to Spain, and that's when we reformed, if you will, and just yeah, and it didn't let up from that point until Kim got sick. So yeah, when Kim got sick, we and we're just passing the 8-year mark of our final gigs. Um,
yeah,
our last gigs were in South America, which we had always got offers to go to, and we never actually did. And we finally did. And our last, our three of our final four shows were in South America. And our final
oh,
show was Vancouver in early May. We're coming up on 8 years on that now. So yeah, so after that show, um, we Kim had written some songs. We were already playing new songs. But we're like, we need to make a record. We're going to take the summer off. Kim's going to write, because Kim would write in bunches.
yeah.
So Kim all of a sudden would be like, I got 5 songs, or like,
That's awesome.
that kind of thing. So we took the summer off, and still talked or whatever. And then in August is the first time I'd seen Kim in a couple months in person. And she picked me up, and we did a podcast together. This guy named Bruce Duff. He's a musician, LA, done a lot of stuff. Anyway, we're on this podcast, and Kim was telling me, you can hear it on the podcast. She's talking about how she can't grip with her left hand anymore. And you hear me say, I'm very concerned. It's eerie almost. And
Yeah,
she's like, I'm going to doctors. I think it's carpal tunnel or something. Well, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, I'm very concerned.
yeah.
Now, ALS, which is what Kim passed away from. If your viewers don't know, ALS known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Basically, your body shuts down. Your brain is completely still on 100%, but your body, you can't move. You can't move or speak as it progresses. There's no cure for it. Okay, so it's like the cruelest thing that can happen. Okay, so basically, okay, so that happens in August. By November, she's diagnosed with ALS. Now, ALS had run in her family. Her father died of it. Her uncle or aunt, I'm sorry, had passed away from it. So she was always scared of it because it's
hereditary.
It's hereditary. Not that everyone's going to get it, but
right. There's like genetic markers for it or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, and so November she's diagnosed, and she couldn't play at this point, right? We had booked 2 shows to play with the Dream Syndicate at this point, and she was just going to sing. We were going to have our friend Adam play guitar. Yeah. We were still going to do it when she got told that it was ALS.
Yeah.
But cut to about 2 weeks later, she's starting to slur. She's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off. So once she got diagnosed, she's like, okay, well, we need to finish this record somehow. All she had made are demos. Now, in the past, Kim had made these great demos. In fact, some of them came out. The really, really, really happy ones got officially released a couple of years ago. Where she'd present us these demos and she'd cut up Roy's drum parts, and it'd sound like him playing live. And I'd be like, God, Kim, you don't really need us, do you? Like they were so good, right? But this record, she did it differently. She was just, some are acoustic, some are better recorded than others, some are like at the practice space, So okay, she's sick now. She can still walk at this point. She can still talk, but she's slurry. Yeah. And so we decided we got to finish this record, and we're just going to kind of always compare it to Madcap Laughs by Syd Barrett, which they kind of had to, Gilmore, they had to adhere to this weird timing and stuff that was on tape. Mm-hmm. So some of these things were like out of tune or weird timing. So we went in the studio in December and recorded Roy playing drums to these things. Yeah. Now we had a couple of songs that that were left over from our previous record, Whoop-De-Doo, that we could put on there and stuff. But the majority of it is just built around these demos. A couple of them are acoustic only. But yeah, and so at that point, and I'm glad. Did you freeze?
No, I'm just listening, man.
Gotcha.
I'm good. I'm just.
No, I heard a bloop, and then you froze. I thought you froze. Okay.
No, I'm just enraptured.
Yeah. So, and I'm glad we had this moment, right? Because Kim's husband, Kevin, who's wonderful human, and Kevin doesn't work in the business. Kevin works in the television business. Does well. Kim got his best care she could get, which is amazing. But before we went in, Kevin took me and Roy aside and said, you might have to help her get up when she's sitting, that kind of thing. Just warning her, she might need a little help getting upstairs. So everyone went to eat, and it was just me and Kim. And I remember she was in the bathroom, and she's like, Ronnie, can you help me get up? And I had to help her get up, and we're kind of laughing. And she's like, can you pull up my pants? I'm like, of course. You want me to pull up your underwear? She's like, I'm not wearing any. Like, it's just same old Kim. Same old Kim. And then she was the same old Kim until she went too.
Yeah.
But so we did this, and then Kim. So okay, that's just so she's diagnosed in October. We're doing these drum tracks in December. By March or April, she can't speak or move. Okay, so that's how quick this all happened. So she, at that point, they have the technology to have a thing size of an iPad that you can construct sentences by reading your eyeball. Like she would construct these sentences using her eyeball, so she could communicate. Right. And like I said, she was still in there until the end because I'd go visit her, and then the machine in a robot voice I'd get there would say, "Your girlfriend has a hairy pussy," and she'd smile. She could still smile, so she was still. And I'd make her laugh, and that was the main thing I loved to do. I told her at a certain point, I'm like, "Look, there's so much to say to you, but I just feel like I should just make you laugh when I'm around you." She's like, "It's perfect." you know. And you know, in this point, you know, it's weird because I've dealt with death of my parents, you know, one when I was young. It's, you know, very sudden things.
Right.
And it's different when you know someone is going to go. Like, but you know, you're able to tell, like, we all of our messages, just telling each other how much we love each other over and over and over. And so anyway, she oversaw the finishing of this record. So she'd be in the living room giving direction to our friend Karen Bassett, who did the engineering for these overdubs. So I had to overdub bass. She's giving direction, you know, backing vocals, the bits you add, a little keyboard part Melanie did, backing vocals, hand claps, tambourine, all that stuff.
Right.
And we finished this record, and and it's called God, I'm drawing a blank. Our last record. It'll come to me.
Okay.
We finished this record, and it was going to come out. You know, she was still around. It was coming out. You know, you need like 3 months lead time, press, and all that stuff.
Right.
You know, Kim was still around. It was coming out. We were starting to like do press, and we had to kind of work around this, right? Because Kim. I should note, Kim was private about her illness, so she was sick the better part of 2 years. She was not public about it. She's still posting stuff sometimes. Nobody knew. That's why everyone was shocked when she passed away. Besides the inner circle. So we're having to pretend like, oh, this is just another Muffs record, and the cover is a shot from us from our third to last show in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and we're in front of a crowd. We played a place that held like 1,000 people. You look at that cover.
Sure.
It's called No Holidays, the name of the record.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I was going to tell you when you.
Yeah. So you look at that cover, and it's us. Anytime we did a big show like that, and it was just rapturous. People were singing along. They're doing again, we never been to South America. Like, they're doing the soccer chants in between. Like, it was unbelievable.
Man.
And like, and they're so happy that we were there. And I should know, I always say this, but the people who like our band tend to like us a lot. You know, the few who do, they really like us. So at the end of a show like that, and I did this, and luckily we had a great photographer there that night. We didn't know we did, but we did. She's from Argentina. I'd say, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, bow. Because there's that cover where they're all, I think it's a Stranger in Town record. We're from behind. They're doing and so that's why in that cover we're holding our hands up and we do the bow.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm pointing like Kiss. I learned that from Kiss. So anyway, people are singing the record, and the fans are like, "Is this a live record?" I'm confused. Now we knew this record would be understood for what it was at some point. We didn't know that it would be so quick. But yeah, we were starting to, like, Kim could only do interviews, you know, online. Yeah. Obviously she couldn't talk to people. So anyway, she was able to see it though. We had our finished copies and stuff. She knew that it was done. You know, and it's if I didn't say it before, it's our miracle record. I always think of it as a miracle that thing got finished. And it came out, literally, it was either 2 or 3 weeks after she passed away. So always kind of knew it would be a tombstone to our career. Not to sound grim, but it really was. And now when she died, I mean, the outpouring, the attention that she got was just unbelievable. Like, it made it made the news and stuff. Like it like the Who put us up at the Hollywood Bowl on their screen. Like Elvis Costello made a statement. When I eulogized her, I said, like, you know, the outpouring is, you know, the Who. I know where all these motherfuckers were when they were taking us for granted, but, you know, it got a good laugh. It got a good laugh, Keith. Anyway, so that's, you know, and you know, so the Muffs. I mean, business continues. We still have reissues come out. We're still working on some things. We have a best of that's going to come out, which I'm really excited about. Probably be next year at this point, because we're already into late April now. But yeah, there's still things to do. So me and Roy and Kim's husband Kevin, I mean, we do the Muffs business. So
Right. Yeah, I saw that you've been really instrumental in reissues and keeping the music out there, and
yeah, and I
that's really cool, man.
can't say enough good things about Omnivore Recordings,
Yeah,
who does all this for us. We have deluxe versions of the Warner's all three Warner's records, and the really happy, and and like that demos thing. They're very it they're great people. They love music. They do it for the right reasons.
right on.
Uh, Things stay around. They exist. There's so many
Yeah,
old school bands they won't do something because they like, oh, well, I'm not going to get ripped off. Well, you know what? There's something to be said for having it existing the right way.
right.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I I think it's beautiful that Kim was able to be so involved in the completion of the record. I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome. And if there's an upside to the story, I guess it's that. Like she got to see the whole thing, and
yeah.
but
No, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't piece it together. Yeah, because I don't think there's much uh in her vaults or whatever. I'm sure she's got song ideas, but like,
right.
Kevin, her husband, I think to this day has not gone through her stuff. Like it's still, oh, just her sickness and stuff. It was rough, and especially
Yeah. Yeah.
him being there every day for. So
Right.
yeah, but yeah, we did it. We assembled it, and
Right
yeah,
on,
like you
man.
say, yeah, I know that she was happy to get that
Yeah.
accomplished. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. It's man,
it
I'm
would have been a
sorry. I'm
weird.
kind of
No,
I mean,
no,
you
it's some heavy.
experienced it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
it's some
it's
heavy shit. It's some heavy shit, Keith. I totally
yeah,
understand,
man.
and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say too about it, like that it was going to come out while she was still around. Like, I don't know. We'll never know how it would have been received because it would have been a weird. It's a
Right.
weird record for us. Like we were gonna,
Yeah.
we kind of arrived in this like, we fell in love with the demos, wanted to construct it a little differently. That was kind of our kind of line of
Yeah.
attack and explaining it. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
I'm glad it's out there. So yeah, if
Right on,
people,
man.
I wish people, yeah, people listen, even if you listen to it for free, listen to it because
Right on. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and since it is, out there in physical form, man, support physical media and support artists because streaming is cool to get to listen to
yeah,
stuff, but nobody's making tons of money off streaming, you know. It's
yeah,
just not how it
yeah,
works.
yeah,
We had
absolutely,
I had Dave Alvin from White Trash on, and he he hates streaming. Like he put the first two White Trash albums up before he really knew
yeah,
and he's like, man, if I could figure out a way to take those down, I'd take those down too. He's like, none of my music goes on there. And he's like,
yeah.
it's
I got a love hate thing with it because actually, I mean, I get something monthly. I never gotten record sales royalties just because we spent so
sure,
much money making our records. But
yeah.
I get something every month from streaming, and
Hey, right on.
so I
Yeah,
don't I hear people, yeah,
yeah. One thing
complaining.
about the Muffs, like you mentioned the outpouring. I feel like even if the record sales didn't always reflect it,
Yeah,
your band, everyone talked about your band. Everyone talked about the Muffs. Everyone loved the Muffs. Like even if you only heard a few songs, what you
yeah,
heard, you were like, "This is so good," And it may not have
yeah,
translated into like Billboard Hot 100,
yeah.
whatever. But at the end of
No,
the day, man, a lot of people heard the Muffs and liked the Muffs and knew that their favorite bands liked the Muffs, and you know what I mean. It was a
no, that steady working career we had for 20 whatever years. I mean,
yeah,
bands would kill for that. We're still going to
yeah,
Japan. Like
yeah,
I said, we're still traveling internationally at the end. Like, um, and we weren't, the nationwide tours had ended. That had ended back in 04 or 05. We didn't,
yeah.
we started just doing the fly. Now every band's do fly-ins, but we were doing fly-ins
Right.
from when we kind of came back in '09 on, right? Like, and that worked for us.
Yeah.
And it would always amaze me too. Like, wow, we just went to the East Coast, played 4 dates. We had to rent a van. We had to have hotel rooms, and we're not shacking up together at that point. We're adults, and we'd still make money. Like, it was astounding to me, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So,
So
you know, and then as far as, you know, even in the late '90s, bands were being described as Muffsy. There's already a tribute band. There's already a tribute band then. Now there's a few, like, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's wild.
I'm not saying they're on the Journey circuit, but there's some tribute bands up there.
Right on. Yeah, they're not on the same level as like the Foreigner and Van Halen ones. But,
yeah. No.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like the fly-ins. I went to a summer of '94 concert is what it was called, and it was Sugar Ray, Lit, who I don't even know if they had their big hit in '94, but they were there. It was Sugar Ray, Lit, Tonic, and who was the other band? It was definitely Sugar Ray, Lit, and Tonic. Maybe it was just those three. The only band that brought merch. What's that?
That'd be a hot '90s tour, like now, like the Revival.
Yeah.
All those bands.
Well, yeah, this was just it was called the Summer of '94 tour. But it was last summer. Yeah.
Okay, it was. It was then. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Oh no, so this was a fly-in show, like, and it wasn't a tour. They all just got flown in for like this free show. Actually, Columbus, Ohio does these free shows at Sentinel Park in the summertime. Yeah. And this was one of them. The only band that brought merch was Lit. Wow. And I was like, they must be getting paid well to not even need to bring merch. You know, it's like they must be taking care of these guys.
Yeah, those other bands blew it too. Like, they could have made a lot more money.
Oh yeah, Sugar Ray could have been raking it in. You know,
no, I find that surprising.
Yeah, it was wild. There was one merch booth, and it was Lit, and Lit mentioned their merch booth like twice.
Yeah,
Tonic and Sugar Ray did not have merch.
Yeah,
I was just like, Lit's still hustling. Well, and they were like, "Hey, we've got a new record coming out." You know, like.
No, those guys have their shit together business-wise. They own a club in Fullerton.
Oh yeah,
we played there, whatever, a couple years before the end. Yeah, I met them. Like, they were fans. Who knew? We never met them in the '90s. They were Muffs fans. But yeah, so those guys, you know, before they reformed, they had this club. They started their own club down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, their set was probably the best one. You could tell that they were still serious musicians. I'm not trying to say anything about Sugar Ray and Tonic, but I mean, Lit went out there and kicked ass, and Sugar Ray and Tonic came out and played their songs. You know, I mean, it's a different thing. You know,
it might have been more rehearsed.
Yeah, for sure.
Who knows? Especially when it's a one-off, you never know how much. Yeah.
Right. Who knows how much time they even had? You know, hey, we want to do this summer '94 show. Calling every band from '94 and see who says yes. You know,
no, and people live in different. I used to be friends with the Romantics, and they all live in different towns, and they'd all just fly to the town the night before, have one rehearsal, and then play.
Right. Well, and Mark McGrath's band, I mean, he calls it Sugar Ray, but it was literally just four guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't anyone from the original band. And when he introduced them, you know, he's like, "This is my drummer. He just came in 3 days ago." You know, it wasn't like. Whereas Lit and Tonic even still had most of their original guys in the band, if not all of them. I'm not 100% sure, but
I was going to say, how would you know? Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, other than them talking from the stage, you know what I mean? The one guy said, "This guy's been by my side for 13 years," and I was like, "Okay, he's probably been around a little bit."
Right.
But yeah.
We were in a movie with Sugar Ray in 1997 called Father's Day with Robin Williams
cool.
and Billy Crystal. Right before Sugar Ray took off, we did this movie with them. Yeah. Anyway, nice guys.
It's funny because I found out about Sugar Ray because Nicole Eggert was dating someone in the band, and she went on the Jon Stewart show and said that she was on the cover of their debut album. And she was like, they're a really cool metal band. So I went and bought it.
Yeah.
So I knew who Sugar Ray was before Fly.
Nice.
It was totally just because I thought Nicole Eggert was hot, and I was like, okay, if she's naked on this cover, I'm going to check it out. But
yeah,
but man,
the whole nother record whole nother record before the hit record. That's right.
Oh man, yeah. That Lemonade and Brownies album
Right.
is like it's so different from
Huh.
what they turned into. It's a new metal album,
Yeah.
honestly.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Nice.
it's really, really different. But yeah, I guess so you mentioned that you were a writer and you
Yeah.
mentioned a book. Are you actually gonna work on a book? Are you working on a book? Because
Yeah.
you have some stories, man.
Yeah, I've been working on it for a long time.
Awesome.
And you think, or one would think that I should be doing it. I moved to Sacramento 7 months ago,
Okay.
and I'm not working. I should be working on the book
Right.
with this
Right.
time. So I got stack of notes like this big. Like
Nice.
every time I think of like, oh yeah, I gotta tell that story. Oh yeah, yeah. I write it down so I have notes.
Right.
Yeah, I really need to get it done. I actually have a book company that already wants to do it.
Oh wow, nice.
Chapter unseen. So yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and
that's
again,
awesome.
I know I'm not like whatever. I'm not like Jackie Kennedy where somebody needs to know about my whole life, but it'll
Yeah.
be like one of those books. It's the short, snappy chapters with just interesting. You're not
Yeah.
gonna you're not gonna have to go through my third grade, you know, childhood or anything.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so
Just
cool though, man. I mean, you
just the
got
interesting stuff. But yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
All right. So let's see. We've mentioned the reissues. We've mentioned the book now and the documentary. The Bill, what's his name?
Bill Bartell. Yeah, Secret
Bill
Lives of Bill
Bartell.
Bartell.
So we
Yeah.
mentioned that. Do you have anything else going on or that might be coming out soon or
Yeah. No, that's about
no?
it.
Okay.
Like
Awesome.
I say, we got a Muffs best of we're working on. A couple other things that have never been on vinyl. Hopefully, the Alert Today Alive Tomorrow reissue will happen at some point.
Awesome.
And then just I don't know, stuff always seems to come up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
recently, me and Roy, for the first time since the end of the Muffs, me and Roy played a Muffs song together on stage with the Linda Lindas. Um,
Okay.
Here in Sacramento. So we played Big Mouth with them. So that was kind of cool. I got back on stage.
Nice. So would you recommend people like shooting Fat Mike records or Fat Mike messages telling him to
Well,
reissue the record? I
well,
mean,
no, he sold Fat Records got sold. I didn't know until
oh,
recently. Last fall got sold to Hopeless Records. So yeah,
okay.
everyone write Hopeless Records.
Hopeless Records. Write to Hopeless Records and tell them we
In
need this
fact,
Muffs album.
I told Omnivore that, and I'm like, get your business people to get in touch. Maybe we can license it
Right
now.
on.
And I'm guessing we probably will be able to. I mean, unless they wanted to do it, right? I mean,
Right.
but yeah, it's our weird kind of dark horse record. It does need to be in print.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Might as well
yeah,
get it
no.
out there for everybody.
I just appreciate people. Every week, I get messages from people that just discovered the band. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah, it's still people will find you even if you're a lower
For
key
sure.
kind of thing. So
Yeah. And speaking of people finding you, is there anywhere online where people should go for like information about you or the band or anything like that?
no,
No? Just use Google.
nothing to plug. I mean, I should be
Yeah.
more. Obviously, there's a Facebook. Well, there's a Facebook page which I barely can pay attention to, but
Right.
and then we have a Facebook group which I pay a little more attention to, but it's less
Okay.
people. And then just me personally, I have all that stuff.
Yeah.
Instagram, I actually post on Facebook more than Instagram.
That's because we're old.
I like the
So
format better. I like being able to
yeah, me too.
reply. I like being able
Yeah.
to reply with photos and stuff and links.
Right.
And
Right.
even though I work, I have always worked in record stores generally, except for the '90s when I didn't work. And
Right.
I work with all these young kids. They're not on Facebook. Like I call them
Right.
kids.
Yeah,
They're
they're
in their
not.
30s. They're 40. Yeah. But they're all Instagram crazy. So what
Yeah,
are you
it's
gonna
funny
do?
that Facebook started out for college kids and now it's like people over 40
It's all old
pretty
people.
much
I
dominate it.
know.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but yeah, I like being able to choose. You're able to choose your people. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, I don't know. I just find the format works for me. But
yeah, definitely.
All
right. So, man.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I want to thank Gerald Collier for setting this up.
Yes, Gerald.
Great guy.
I got to tell you this story, Keith. I teased you with a story. So.
Oh yeah, go ahead and tell the story. Sure.
Now,
yeah, let's do it.
Gerald, yeah. I can consider Gerald a close friend, even though I haven't seen him in 30 years. But Gerald is responsible for the night. There's one night where I smoked pot and I was too fucked up to play. And it was in Seattle, and it's because of Gerald.
Oh, man.
Now, this would be at the Club Rock Candy, possibly before we had our first record. Or the first record was either brand new or it was about to come out, because we played up there a few times beforehand.
Yeah.
Gerald smoked me out, if you will. And yeah, I was up there and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, only time that ever happened. So Gerald,
that's hilarious.
God damn it. That's a fun memory now. I think I pulled it
for
off.
Sure.
It was definitely the 4-piece lineup still. So we were noise. There's enough noise to cover up.
Yeah, you were okay. It was fine.
Yeah. I don't think anybody noticed. But
right.
Yeah. Also, I do I co-host a couple of podcasts sometimes too.
Oh, sure.
You can find me out there doing that kind of thing. I like interviewing people just like you, Keith.
Nice. I'm sure you're better at it than I am, but I do my best.
I crash my friends. I don't have my own because I don't know how to do production stuff, but I crash my friends. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
right on, man.
I stay busy. Cool. Yeah.
So I want to thank Gerald, like I said, for setting up the interview. I want to thank my producer, Tyler Martin, Emmy Studios, because just like you, I can't do this production stuff either. So if it wasn't for him, this podcast wouldn't even happen. He's a great guy, and I appreciate him a lot. He's also going to be editing my movie, so look out for that thing. And Ronnie Barnett, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. You've been very generous. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Keith. It's fun. And Tyler, make sure you make me look good.
Yeah. I hate doing the podcast at night because the lighting in my house is so bad.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hopefully you can brighten me up a little bit. But But anyway, so thank you everybody for paying attention to this thing and watching it and helping us grow. It's been fun. We got some pretty big interviews coming up next month. Christian Shields Band is going to be on. Ronnie Rousey, or not Ronnie, sorry, Ronnie's his wife. Lucas Rousey is going to be on. There's a couple more people. I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's late for me. but I appreciate you taking the time to check out this and pay attention to everything that we're doing. And we will see you next week with more Most Excellent Entertainment.